It is a pleasure. Royal greetings. I welcome you, the Kingdom of Africa and the African descents and the diaspora in general. My name, as he has rightly said, is His Royal Majesty King Francis Kelechi Nwaneri, the third, the Paramount Chief of Africa, the founder of SWAF, and of course, I am not found wanting in the diaspora. Well, as you know, that the order of the day today is education. I am an aeronautic engineer. I was in the Air Force. I studied scuba diving in Canada and advanced ammunition development in South Africa, where I have acquired all levels of security degrees and all that. But today, the most important thing is, as a cultural man or as a custodian of culture and tradition, I have to hold the mountain, and that mountain is mountain of leadership in the royalties and royal kingdoms of Africa. We got to have someone who has to be a voice, who has to speak out, and so that others can concur in most of the things we do. I don't know. I think this is just the brief basis of me. And I have resident several long a time in foreign lands on quote, but that's what it's taken to be.
Thank you very much, and it's very high note. You see, like I was saying before, it is very uncommon in most of the cases, especially in these days, that we have a kind of royalty who come out to support the African people, because there are a lot of Africa that are actually marching, because we understand that we are not yet free. We understand that we don't need to be told that we are not free, because we look at all that is happening to us today. So it is a very big honor and how do I call it? A very positive thing to have a royal who is at the back of a kind of a push, telling the youth, hey, go on, push on to be free. Because what we all need is for our continent to be free. So now, the question I want to ask you in this area is it me that is thinking like that, or when you, among the royal, the royalty in Africa, is it the way you feel about it too? That you need to be there more to sort of support the youth that are marching for the interest of the African people, or is it only few of you that are really inclined to this mindset of really supporting the people that are marching for the freedom of the African people?
All right. In every initiative, there's always an early runners, the background pushes of things that are going on in the whole of the African descent and the diaspora. Of course, it's quite a lot of trouble putting them together as kings of Africa. It's quite a lot of hassles putting a whole. There are some, okay, I will say this, in the African continent, we have lost a whole lot of kingdoms. So many kingdoms has been destabilized, dissolved and resolved into not being a kingdom. So some certain countries in Africa, first and foremost, have no kings. You talk about kings, they don't even know what is kingship. And that is the Western gimmicks that destabilize all those. But anyway, we are at the moment putting together in some countries where there are no kings, what we call elders that can coordinate the affairs of the other people in the community. And those elders will later be called chiefs, and chiefs will later be called kings in such countries like Comoros, like Burundi. We have no kings in this place, in those places. And there's quite a whole lot of stress. So with that being said, it's not all of us that are in this shoe at the moment because of such destabilizations of the Western world. Having said that, we then put together some certain plans of trying to communicate their country, even though they do not have kings, royalties, or chiefs who are presently officiating for their country. We put together SWAF. And SWAF now have what we call ambassadors, resident ambassadors, youth ambassadors, and roving ambassadors of SWAF. So they now move into these communities and areas where there are no kingships as functions of the kings and elders. In other ways, it's going to be temporary. Why? Because as long as we didn't have the kings or we didn't have the royalties begin to function, such plans that we have made now would now be taken away for the permanent situation. But yes, we have several kings who are together with SWAF. We have several kings who are working to make sure that SWAF is even representing stronger in the African community because the diaspora, because the time has come. The time is now. The time is now that all of us have to have a formidable effort as kings in order to make sure that things are moving the way we expect it to move, and as it was moving in the past.
Okay, thank you very much for that. You see, there is in this podcast, this particular channel, we pay a lot of attention to leadership. In that the kind of leadership that we have in Africa, we want is not serving us to start with. No, and that is a plain fact. Because if the leadership in Africa were serving our interests, most of the things that are happening in the continent will not be happening the way it is happening. Of course, your Royal Highness, you should also know this, no? But in most of the cases, we have to argue to say that it is not because we are new to leadership. Because if you look at the kingship that we have had in Africa, the Oba, the Emir, these are people that have always represented the interests of their people. Leadership should be about the people. So when we are talking of SWAF, in this case now, forming this body for the interest of the people, in terms of leadership, where are we going? What really is the function of this body that is formed where you are the head?
All right, thank you very much. SWAF is an intermediary organization. SWAF is a voice for several kings of Africa. SWAF become, a mediator of several kingdoms in negotiations and in bringing in of businesses to their kingdoms here in Africa. SWAF has the leadership of all the kings. If not all of them, we have 99% of the leaderships of kingships in Africa in SWAF. And SWAF is standing out there to be a resuscitating, reviving, and restoring kind of organization. In other words, in mediation with other kingdoms, it becomes a bridge to get into other kingdoms. So there is all the kings of different parts of Africa in SWAF, as I'm talking to you. We have all the kings from, I can't even mention them now because it's quite a lot that are in SWAF Federation. We have SWAF International and SWAF Federation. SWAF Federation tend to handle the issues, only the issues of SWAF. And what are the issues? The affecting issues from the kingdoms. And like you have rightly asked, yes, the role of SWAF is to mediate, to become an advocate, and to resuscitate, revive the dignity of Africans. And what are these dignities, more especially in terms of repatriation and in terms of restitution? And the restitution is the return of our artifact that, of course, is being spoken about internationally, and we are filing up petitions for such returns. We also have the aspect of repatriation where SWAF is the motherland organization in cooperation with SOAD. SOAD is State of African Diaspora. SWAF is in cooperation with SOAD so that whatever SOAD is doing in the diaspora and SWAF is in, we can marry it together, or we can expedite whichever decision or whichever implementation that SOD wishes to see on ground. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yeah, you have answered it, sir. You have answered it. Now, in relation to the situation that is facing Africa, which is, of course, leadership is part of in a great way. When the issue of swap, like you just made mention of, came up, it become a kind of a welcome development. No, that we are trying to find a solution. We African people, we really need a solution to the problem. No, and now I'm trying to look at the diaspora community, because this is a fight that is not only from one front. It's a fight that is going to be from different fronts. And this is one of the things that I actually take away from the conference that was organized in South Africa recently. Can you tell me how is the diaspora community responding to this demand for a kind of, I don't want to say a rebate. We need a rebate for the system, no? So how is the diaspora community responding to it? Because now we are all going to be working together for the progress of the African people.
Well, I'm not into politics, but I am a full custodian of culture, customs, and tradition. But to digress a little and not to deviate, I will say this. The Biafran community is just like the Oromian community in Ethiopia. The Oromians being oppressed by the others, which I wouldn't want to mention names, and the Biafrans being oppressed by a certain community, or what do you call it, certain populate in Nigeria. Yes, the Biafrans sat there and at the moment are sorrowful, just like we have the Amazonians, sorrowful, and the Romians, sorrowful, but yet they are sitting up to say we support this issue of the diaspora coming through SWAF Federation. And SWAF Federation anchoring this is making us to understand we have gotten leadership that can withstand the test of the day. And that test of the day is unapologetically being a proudly African in 100% initiations of Africans' descent. I'm going to say this again, the Biafrans, as your question goes, are there in support because they have seen that the repatriation aspect and the restitution aspect is going to benefit the Biafrans also. Because our sons and daughters were slave traded some 400 years ago. We are not exonerated from that very trip of repatriation and restitution. So Biafran support is with us. And I pray that Biafran stands on their ground. And I'm praying for such because according to the world powers, they say 30 or 36 years of the warhead being alive, a sovereign state will be granted to certain regions and all that, according to their knowledge politically. That happened with the time of the warhead at that time, which was Ojukwu. But nothing happened. They ignored it until he passed on. And to be eloquent over this, I keep asking questions. Why must we, the leaders, keep quiet of what happens in some certain regions of Africa not taking it headlong until it gets us in our own constituency. It means we are being dealt with singly. And remember, and I remember this, during the time when my father was alive, he had decidated something by putting, I don't know if the international community will understand what is a broom. When a broom stays together, it is hard to be broken. But when you pick up the broom singly, it's just a twinkle of eye, you will destroy the brooms. And that is a product that comes from the palm tree. For those who do not understand it, you can break it singly, but if it is together, you struggle. If we begin to have a formidable effort, joint things in the whole of the African descent and community, it will be hard to deal with us. So our power is in togetherness.
That is absolutely right, sir. Our power is in togetherness. And this is also part of our philosophy as a people. And because if we are together, then we can withstand any form of challenge that is facing us. And one of the challenges that is facing us today, of course, I'm posing this question to you because you have a background in military, in security. One of the major challenges that we have today in Africa is the destabilization through the use of small pockets of violence here and there, which are not really deeply rooted. They are just there on the surface to keep burning, to keep distracting the people. And this makes it very difficult for some nation to make progress, because when there is destabilization, it is difficult to have headway. You can look at Congo, you can look at many other parts of Africa that's going on, because these are some of the issues that actually could have been solved if the people really want to solve it, no? But instead they don't solve it, they just let the bubble keep on, and is really killing the continent. Now, from your experience, from your military training, you have got a lot of training and from military background, security in South Africa, of course, you are highly respected there. Tell me, how do you feel about this destabilization in different parts of Africa through the use of military strategy that is not allowing the people to focus? Because if you cannot focus, it is difficult to make any headway.
Well, the answer, I always say, what is eating up the bean is within the bean. And I'm going to say this at this point in time. If we are not destabilized, the Western world will not be receiving anything from us. They will not survive. And so the instability is part of the new law order. I repeat, if we are not destabilized, we might have expatriates in different military functions and arms. It's not going to work, except we come together, except we respect one another as Africans, except we'll begin to see the importance of one another, except we come together and know that there is no other way rather than having that formidable effort to operate. But going back to your question, yes, with my experiences and all what is going on now, I have looked in and still see that the problem we have is the problem of being used remotely and directly. Remotely, of course, I'm not afraid to say, from the Western world. Directly from those they have made toothless bulldogs in these military arms and sections. I remember what happened while I was still in the service, where a certain head, whom I wouldn't want to mention, came into power and take the head of artillery and make him the head of the doctor department, medical department, take the head of the medical department and make the head of the infantry, take the head of infantry and make the head of the technical department. In other words, what do you think? It is a coup. It's a silent coup. It's a coup of the brain because the whole department has been destabilized. Why? Imagine if at that time there is a certain situation that befalls that nation. Do you think they can perform artillery-wise? No. Infantry-wise? No, because their head has been misposted. Let me use that word. Their heads has been misposted intentionally for a reason. So this is still the same system that is going on worldwide. If there is no problem on ground, the Western world will not survive. So the term we try to throw punches, we throw punches on top as Africans, and we are busy with minor issues of borders, language barriers, and all that. They are busy taking your resources on the ground. So the only way this has to continue is by having this stability. So to me, with all what I have studied, I would tell you that the only way that the African descents and Africa can come together before, like they have been in the past, come again together, is by having in the kingdoms of the kings and royalties the same kind of royal guards with the present day impact of security in their brain and the kind of secretiveness they used to have, which we call security of otherness. And that security of otherness, that's the word of security anyway. When we say that, security of information in one word, what does that say? It says you die with your secret and be buried with your secret without telling even your mother or your father what is happening within the next core. If such trainings can be given, and we begin to raise the kingdom royal securities to at least start from the local constituencies, building up into standard level, then we will be able to operate as Africans. But if we continue to operate with the modern day security, which has been infiltrated, which has been one way or the other divided and monitored and controlled in the Western functions and ways, I am telling you that we will continue to fail in security.
Thank you so much for that, sir. It's very important that question, that aspect. No? So I'm going to spend another one question there, and because you are an expert in that area, and it is very important for us as a people in that it make the way the system basically run in Africa. It appears as if we are new in this world, but we are not new in this world. This is a continent that have formed empire, that have formed kings and queens, and people have fought, have created civilization. It is not new to us. So the remaining of the security again, why is it not possible that we can begin to start really organizing training? Because, for example, the United States said they wanted to protect Africa, which is, of course, is a lie, by creating Africa, which, of course, is settled in Germany. But then we did one podcast and I was saying, it is not true. The United States cannot form a military command to protect Africa. That is a lie. Because every military is formed to defend its own people, their own interest. The only military setup that can defend Africa will be formed by the African people, financed by the African resources, and formed by the African youth, African men and women. And they will be prepared to live and die for the sake of this mission. That is the only hope we have. Nothing else is possible. So among the kings makers in Africa, among the people who we look upon as leaders, is somebody thinking in this line of creating information, for example, that can be available for the survivor of the African people. Because nobody is going to save us. Jesus is not going to save us. Muhammad is not going to save us. No miracle is going to save us. Only us are going to save us, or we are going to perish. So I want to know what is the strategy also related to SWAP.
Okay, good question. But there are some things I wouldn't lay out just because of the book, and we are not supposed to say those things until we hash it up. As SWAF Federation, we have the Federational Royal Guards, and we intend to have the Federational Royal Guards being trained by me and sent over for trainings. And in such procedures, we have already our manuals and brochures of training. And this training is not against the government of Africa, neither is it against the government of the West, but to instill the olden way of guarding Africa in their heads. So we have called it SWAF Federational Royal Guards. SWAF Federational Royal Guards. And we are busy sending already proposals to kingdoms for acceptance, and the whole lot of them have endorsed that. And they are ready to send 4 to 5 personnel down to us, and it becomes a way of interchanging our culture while these trainings are going on. At the end of it, the 5 people or 4 we have trained will now go back to the kingdoms. It will be their responsibility to go back to the kingdoms with the manuals that we have already made to train others. Having said that, this is the plan in terms of security, and we're not doing that to invade anybody, but to make sure that the kingdoms still remain with the strong securities that we used to have in the past as kingdoms. And when I say kingdoms, remember, charity begins at home. If we can then be governed from the kingdom level and local level, it is degenerating to the federational level. And everybody in the African descent will feel safe again. There are some things going on in some parts of Africa now, for instance, and we are not happy. We are seriously not happy, and we are writing and speaking and fighting against all that, and believing that very soon, if we are able to spread out our royal guards and with the powers of Africa endowed in them, a lot will happen. Powers like in the past, you can see enemies coming to hit or approach you, but yet nothing goes. And that's where I speak my language, or DAC. Such are the powers that we all had in the past. And we had the warriors. The warriors are being kept in each kingdom of Africa for such purpose, to protect the kingdoms. If such was in existence, some certain things happening in some parts wouldn't have been happening. I remember I was told a story whereby a certain woman was protecting a certain deity. As they say, we're idol worshippers. Who set the pest? And who told you that our forefathers were worshiping idol? They weren't. But those are the altars they can see at that very time. That was the things they were able to create and worship through, as it was also biblical. But at that point, when the Biafran and Nigerian war was going on, There is a certain deity that was protecting the women, and there was a certain deity that was protecting the men. I'm not deviating, but this is important. That deity, there will always be a drum. We call it Udu, Udummiri, which is a drum of water. There will always be a drum of water, and that drum must be filled by the ladies around that kingdom. They fill water there. If the Biafran soldiers come and chase him, because what they were doing those days was to rape women, take them away, take them and cut their heads and all that. As they appear, that deity will appear as a young girl in front of them. As they want to grab her, it will turn to an old woman. As they go closer, it turns to a snake, a very big one. This deity was doing that until the Nigerian soldiers will run. And the word they will say is, Oko, Oko, Juju de here. And they will run. The Juju has become the security and the protector of that kingdom. That's where I'm heading to. And that was instilled by the kings of the land. They promoted such to happen. Why? Because it is their defense. But today, you can now hear stories. These soldiers entered this community and killed 1 million people. It's a lie. It never happened in the past. It never happened in the times of our forefathers. It never happened during our ancestral worship, as they said. Of course, I'm a Christian, but a Christian who believes in his culture, tradition, and customs. It is also biblical to let what belongs to Caesar goes to Caesar, and what belongs to God goes to God. So in this time, everything is in the kingdom. If it was there, like in the past, we were going to be saved with what is happening today. But anyway, the past is the past. We're not dwelling on that, but let's hold on our culture, traditions, and custom. Let's not let all these things go away. Internally, it will help us security-wise. We don't need the foreign protection. We don't need the Western protection or Western intervention. Before we are Africans, we solve our problems in African way. This is what I'm talking about in terms of protection.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, sir. And thank you for your boldness, because we need it. We need it. I know what I mean. We need it. Our culture is where we can take refuge, because you cannot pretend, I repeat again, you cannot pretend to have salvation from outside of you. It's not going to come. It's going to fade. And you see, I really hope that there are more people, there are more royalty in Africa who come out to defend the people, because this is what we are talking about by leadership for the interest of the people. Because now, if you take a typical leadership in Africa, I'm not talking of the political structure, the way that we have it today, which is sort of almost false, as it were. If you, let's say, for example, take the Oba of Benin. It will be irrational for the Oba of Benin to deceive his people. Because where are you going to go? You don't have any other place to go.
No.
Because the Oba, the authority of the Oba have evolved along with the people. The people are his power. So you are obliged to protect the people. But unfortunately, what we have today, we have this technocrat who do not really care about the people. They say thousands of Africans died trying to cross to Europe. It doesn't concern them. Because it hasn't entered into their consciousness that these are your people. So this is why I'm really happy that you are speaking from the point of view of the interest of the African people, because we need it. We need it to the grassroots to be able to understand the relationship that exists between you as my leader and me as your follower, because without me, you are not there. Without you, I am not there. It must be one and the same.
Mutual, yes.
All right. So the question I'm really driving at here now is how is it possible for us to marry these two together? This traditional system that have evolved for thousands of years that's supposed to work. This importation of civilization, if you want to call it, of the European, are they forced on us? How are we able to go hand in hand with both of them? Your
I didn't
response,
get
sir.
that clear. There was a
Okay,
little break.
okay. What I say there is that this system that we have, for example, looking at the system of the Oba, this is a very fundamental, very well explained, clear, very simple to understand that the people have been part of for years. And this European system of government, where we basically elect people, I'm not saying it's completely wrong, but if we allow it to work, it will work. But it has not been allowed to work. So how do we marry both of them together so that the people are not confused?
Okay, this is it. In every family, we have a father and a mother. And if the father steps in and tells the children, do not listen to your mother, that father is creating deviation in the family. In fact, excuse my word, he's a stupid father. Because that father cannot run that house without the mother. And when the mother steps in and also gives such, vice versa, the mother has also committed blunder. What am I trying to say? The government and kingships and royalties, they go line in line. The Bible said when kings, leaders is included in that word, when kings, pastors come together, that pastor is not just pastor as in pastor we know today, it's leadership. When kings and leaders come together, they have what we call formidable effort. But the problem is the other way around. The case is reversed. Where you have the politicians taking the kings as arrogant or captioning them arrogant and taking them to be parallel to them, that they do not meet. They are parallel lines. That's where the problem comes. But if they tend to respect the kings who are the fathers of the land, and they are the wives, because their relationship is tenorship, their administration is tenorship. The kings are hereditary. We have come to stay. If I die today, my son takes over. It's not electable. It's not an electable or appointable position. No, it is hereditary. In that regard, respect the kings, and the kings respect that there is a government. Even before Christ was crucified, there was Pontius Pilate, and where king who particularly washed off his hand because he has done according to his level of power and authority and understanding, and say, well, from me as the governmental side, this is what I can do. But if you people say you are not happy with me, well, the final judge goes to the kings. And the decision was taken against Christ, and he was crucified. That tells you that there are two families in every country or continent. So if the politicians, once whatever they are introducing to work, they have to find a way to induct the kings of the land, their system. And the kings will sit with them and see, look at it with the molars. What you're saying is an issue I was discussing coincidentally this morning. If you want an advanced issue or something to work very well, you chew, you invite those who chew with the molars, not the milk teeth. The milk teeth are babies. The molars are more matured. It can tear any and grind anything, any bone with the molar. And in other words, what I'm saying, there are those who have heads, but they have no money. And there are those who have money and have no heads. Wisdom in Africa. So when you merge up these two, the molars sitting down together, where there will be a mixture of those who have brain, have no money, and those who have money, have no brain. It will shift itself automatically, because those who knows that I don't belong here becomes a weed, and they know they will be weeded out while the crop will grow. I'm speaking affirmatively for you to get me much better. And I want you to understand what I'm saying is that these two bodies need to work together. I didn't say there will be no government. Of course, it will be completely impossible where there will be no government. But the government and kingship should work together, not for the purpose of corruption, not for them to corrupt one another or to bribe one another, not for them to say, shut up, you become a toothless bulldog or obedient rubber stamp because of the money I'm giving to you. Shut up and do as I say. Nobody should remote each other. No, they work together for the interests of the community. Then things will be fine.
Thank you very much for that, sir. You need to be very clear again. I need to thank you for your boldness in those areas, no? Because the people must always be the most important, because that is what we are serving, the people. Okay,
absolutely.
Now there is a question that that is going around in the minds of many people, including mine, no? When it comes to the responsibility of African leaders in what has happened to us. In that, in most of the cases, we often tend to be innocent, no, of what has happened. Whether we are talking of slavery, talking of before then, talking of after then, the neo-colonialism and the rest of it. In most of the cases, we have hardly seen African leaders come out to take responsibility for some of the part that they have played. Because we cannot pretend, I personally do not accept that we are innocent in everything that has happened to us as Africans. So, from your point of view as a leader, as a traditional leader, do you think it is even possible that some African leaders should own up to their responsibility to what is happening to us?
Absolutely. I agree with you there, because biblically it said, I think I mentioned it on the day of the event, that beware of dogs. It's not beware of dogs outside, but inside. Dogs are inside and not outside. And that is in Philippians 2:3. It says, beware of dogs. And I'm trying to use that to illustrate what you have just said. Obviously, among every 12, there is a Judah. There is a Judah amongst us who actually perpetrated or aided or helped these whole crimes going on. Just like in the time of slave tradery, with the question you asked me here, we are not totally innocent. It was our own brothers, some of them within the community, that shows the Western world where their people are. And they were taken away for slave tradery, unpaid labor overseas, some 400 years ago. That was perpetrated, and they're still happening today. We still have such people in our community that are still spies. So we are not going to sit down and keep blaming the Western world 24/7 that they did this, they did that, pointing fingers. No, it's not going to help us. The only thing I could say at this very point in time is that most of us should shoulder responsibilities and bring up programs that can resuscitate, revive, and restore our dignity in several kingdoms. Programs that will withstand the test of time. Programs that can educate, reprogram the mindset. I repeat, reprogram the mindset of our people who think even that they cannot survive without traveling to the Western world, who think that they cannot survive without the Western world, who think that everything is done for them by the Western world. It's a lie. The resources is here in Africa. I was proud to tell one, I wouldn't mention someone. I said, listen, Africa is very rich. And in land mass, we can accommodate all of you all back, and we will not be choked or suffocated. Africa is wide and big enough to do that. And with the natural resources that the Lord has endowed to us, if we or you guys can allow us to manage what we have, it will be wonderful. We will come out. Who says Africans are never do well? Who says Africans cannot do it? But the challenge is that we are not given a chance. The most challenge is that within ourselves, we do not believe in ourselves. A situation whereby a child will be sick now, you will see the father running out to go and get a visa to take the child overseas. What are you saying? There are a lot of doctors trained. What are those doctors doing? Are they just a symbol or a toothless Buddha? What were they trained for? We want to build bridges. We get experts from the Western world, whereas we have civil engineers here. We do not believe in ourselves. Let us start to believe in ourselves. Let us show that the responsibility of indigenous organizations, Africa for Africa, proudly African organizations that can stand out for resuscitation, revival, and restoration of African dignity, including our diasporans. This is the only way that we can begin to move forward, because we have acknowledged our mistakes as leaders of Africa. We have acknowledged our mistakes as kings. We have first felt the remorse before blaming the next door neighbor. There is no robbing or stealing or thieves that comes into a house without a spy of the house to them. The spy would have told them where the keys are or is, or where the doors are and where the loopholes are. So what I'm saying is that I will speak this in my language. We say that we don't know where water followed and enter a certain plant that is called ubogru. But the point where it entered knows itself. And what am I saying? As Africans, we know ourselves. We know that there must be, I repeat, there must be an equal and opposite reaction that leads to what we are facing today. And until we begin to learn that this is where that has started, let's cover it and move on. And where has it started? Betraying ourselves, not believing on each other, and waiting on Western intervention. Having the knowledge, because we have been brainwashed, that we cannot make it without the Western world. So we rely 100% on them. When this is reprogrammed, when we have awareness campaigns, when we have a reprogramming organizations that will hold on resuscitation, revival, and restoration of African dignity, then we can proceed.
Thank you so much for that. In fact, the question I'm going to ask is going to be really on that reprogramming. But before we get there, I just want to reinforce the line a little bit in that why we're saying that the current crop of leadership that we have do not represent the people is also for this reason. In that you have people who basically have a system of education of not only a system of education, a system of miseducation. Because when you educate the people should be given the instrument to be able to free themselves, to be able to tap into the resources that is around them and make a good life for themselves. That is how it has always been. That is why, okay, sorry, I'm always using the case of Oba because that is what I know better because I'm from Edo State. But of course, the system of Oba is the same with the system of Igwe, is the same with the system of Emir, whether you go to Congo, it's the same basically everywhere because it's a traditional system that is well-rounded. It's well-rounded. So if the Oba could send people in the pre-colonial era to Portugal, for example, to learn, it was for this reason. At the time, there was this exchange of knowledge. We are talking of even the primitive era. They send people outside to go and study, and these people come back and use that knowledge for the kingdom. As far back as Europe, but even before that, in other kingdom too, because people do not just have all the knowledge all among them. You have part of it, I have part of it, but by exchanging, we're able to advance. So the kind of knowledge that is circulating around us is so bad that it's not even helping us to grow. Let me give you just an instance. The Nigerian electricity. Let's even assume that the technicians we have in Nigeria are so poor, they don't know what they are doing. But there is somebody in head, there is somebody who is in charge. This person cannot say he doesn't know what to do because light has been invented for how many years now?
Absolutely.
So this person that is in charge, whether you are a minister or a commissioner for light, for electricity generation, you cannot say for after 10 years, you still cannot send Nigerians to go to Russia, to go to England, to go to Canada, or to go to the United States to study. I'm not saying go there and bring Aaron to come and invest in Nigeria. I'm not saying go to UK and bring the UK expert to come and invest. No, send Nigeria to go there and study. Study how life is done. We don't know it. Go out and study. This is the knowledge. This is what the leadership is supposed to do. They're supposed to find a solution to the people's problem because they are just massaging the head of the people. They are lying to us. Okay, now that is that for that. Now for SWAP, for the new reprogramming system, I don't know if there is any part you want to share with us because we are really very important. We are so key about the solution. How do we get out of this quagmire?
Well, as you said earlier concerning our leaders and what is going on, I still keep saying this, and I think I mentioned it during the event time, that the most important thing that we must do is begin to initiate several inter-country cultures, program inductions of African descents. As we begin to do all that, definitely it will flow where every one of us begin to interchange our culture and traditions and begin to know that we are one. And that knowledge become refreshed again. For instance, let me ask you one question. I was discussing with someone one day, and he says to me, Paramount? I say, yes. He said, where are your kids? I said, why? That's a security question. And he says to me, well, I just asked for a reason. I say, be explicit, self-explanatory, let me understand. And then he went down and said he put his children here and there because of some certain reasons. Then I asked him a question. If you put them here and there, how would they understand your local language? For instance, where are you from? He mentioned. I said, do they know how to speak that language? He says no. I said, fine. But he said to me, but arrogantly said to me, there's no need. Why they hear English is the lingua franca. And I said to him, shame on you. Shame on you. Because you are not able to even tell your kids where they come from. Like if I ask my children, where are you from? They say, we are from Cresta, we stay in Johannesburg. Oh, really? Is that your hometown? And I say, speak your language. We're trying to correct this now, but I am saying this because some parents are making mistakes again to the next generation because they are not giving them something to inhabit. They are not giving them something to inherit because they are making English their lingua franca. Whereas our children should have been learning our indigenous languages. And beside learning an indigenous language, began to raise Swahili as a lingua franca of the whole African country, as a central language, Swahili, and so that even if we do not understand ourselves now, the next generation will not continue this whole mess that we have been in. I'm answering you from that point. So there are correctional services and correctional things that we should start doing now in order for the next generation not to continue what we are facing. A better Africa then will start from now. I was so angry in some certain program where Chinese children are being trained a local language in Nigeria. Why am I angry? I asked myself this question. If they now know your local language, what is your safety and security? Because they know they are the generation to replace the present generations coming up. They send them to learn the local language. And you are proud, hey, they are learning our language. Oh, you are in trouble. Because those languages they are learning, your own children who is living in the city and you're promoting them to study English as lingua franca will not even understand that language when they use it against you. And yet you are proud that the Western world come with some young generations. What a brilliant move and step. Because those young generation will live to give it until they grow old and the others begin to teach others to secure their economies, to secure whatever resources they have in your country. The younger ones are there. What a brilliant step. What we need to do and what we're doing in SWA Federation is that we are promoting Swahili as a central language for the whole Africans. And I'm happy the existence of Lumi currency, which is digital at the moment. That's a digital currency that is widely spreading. And I am encouraging that digital currency, which is called Lumi. I'm encouraging it greatly in every symposiums, every podium I climb. I speak about it because it's not a cryptocurrency. It's not the one you mine yourself. No, it is a compliance. And I know why I call it compliance. I call it compliance because it's digital, and because it's digital, it will exonerate the pains of the future. And that pains is through the new law orders, where you have to enter supermarkets on compliance of whatever they might introduce to you. But presently, The only way you can exonerate yourself from that is by being Lumi compliant and have that digital currency. You can sit back at home and do your orders online until the physical one comes. And if you cannot, you can use it as trade by barter in your network. I repeat the word trade by barter, because if I have Lumi and you have Lumi and the other people around me have Lumi, we can use it to trade and become Lumi richer. This is what we were doing in the olden days with trade by barter. So I'm also happy that some 2 years ago, while I remember I attended the meetings of the Pan-African section, Nkosazana Zuma has been pushing for one passport Africa, and that passport is out. But now, still in the corridors of power, what is he waiting for there? The passport should be given out. The passport is only going to be 90 days. You don't need to start looking for visa and what and compliances and all that. You just take your passport as an African and cross the border, though there is a controlling visa at the port of entrance. You get a controlling visa and you do your business freely without being stressed as an African. And that is, of course, a control of population that will necessitate that controlling visa at the border. But of course, you've been exonerated through visa applications and so many other things. So SWAF is standing out as an advocate of all this I have mentioned, according to your question. Thank you.
Very excellent, sir. It's only because of time, because this issue that are cropping up, especially even the question of currency. Of course, I'm going to talk to the Prime Minister about it, because I've already negotiated for the interview, because that is a very important part of it's important part of the entire network of the African Diaspora Community Group. In that we need to have information that is important for us, related to money, related to how we control our money, because money also is power. Anyway, we will come to that. And now, just before I let you go, sir, another important thing of the time that we live in today is the data. How is there anything that we are doing towards that? Because of course, these have been plaguing us very badly. I'm talking of Africa generally, because we don't have enough data, and because we have limited data, this is not helping us when we want to expand in certain area. Of course, data is not only in terms of digital data. Data is something that has been there for a long time, no? It just because we haven't collated enough of it to be in under our possession. So in SWAF, for us to be able to work together, because now we're looking at the entire Africa global. Is there any plan towards data collection and control, of course, because we need to control our data too? That is the question, sir.
All right. In terms of data control, we have databases. If, of course, that's what you're talking about, or are you talking about data as in network, or data as in our control?
No, data as a kind of as a resources, no, so that we should be able to know who we are, where we are, who knows this, how can we do this, what resources do we have, all these different kind of data that should be under our control.
Okay, I do understand that now. Hence, we also spoke about restitution. Restitution is the return of our artifacts. But the question now again is, if the artifact is returned, where is it being taken to? Yes, of course, we have control over that. We have beginning to ask our kings to begin to draw their trees. And when I say trees, what does that mean? Begin to their lineage, to draw the hierarchies of their lineage and from who to who. We have begun to ask kings to keep them in their archives, create kingdoms, museums, where we can keep some specific things as an identification of such kingdoms. We are having programs of induction towards how they can do that in terms of their database, because information is very important. And if any information that dies with you is a useless information, it's not passed on to the next person or to the next generation, it dies with you, then there is no information. Based on that, we in the past used to have some form of creation of artifacts to keep our data of who we look like and how we used to be and the dress we used to wear. We design it through the artifacts that were forcefully looted. And of course, anyway, the artifacts are coming back. But I'm trying to say presently, since the present day technology is allowing us, we have encouraged, excuse me, several kingdoms to begin to put their things together, their archives, begin to put it together in their respective kingdoms, not in the national museums, because in the national museums is still exposed, of course, to the enemies. Let me generalize that statement through that. Let me not be too specific, but I'm trying to say we have some things that I wouldn't want to air out here, which is for the sake of perfection within the kingdoms that we are doing to see that our informations are kept. But on 101 interview, I think that can be released. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. For time's sake, that is where we are going to call the interview today. But I would like you to leave you with a message of yours to the people that have listened to the end of this podcast, because it really have been very enriching. Of course, it pains me that I want to let you go just now. Of course, I know that you have other appointment, because I really have another question I wanted to ask you, because I don't do this every day. I don't see people like you to talk to every day, so I really have a lot of questions to ask. But of course, I'm going to beg for another day to talk to you again, so you'll be able to respond to some of these questions. But I would like you to leave the audience with a message of yours. It can be towards the diaspora, or a kind of a refresh of the SWAP group. Like, for example, somebody want to even know more about it. How should this person come in contact? Things like that. So what would be your last message to conclude the podcast? Please go.
Okay. To such situation, we have www.swaffederation.co.za. I repeat, www.swaffederation.co.za. And you can as well Google the Paramount Chief of Africa. You can check out my YouTube pages. You can get in contact with us through that. In Facebook, Instagrams, we're all over. You can as well link it up to Royal News Africa, which is our radio station. All these are together. And this is one of the things that I am calling on Africans to come together, and let's have a formidable effort. Formidable in the sense that a tree does not make a forest. A tree doesn't make a forest. We need to come together. We need to begin to love one another, appreciate one another. We need to see ourselves in others. We don't need to humiliate ourselves, and we don't need to keep waiting for the Western intervention while our houses are burning. We need to have this as a culture, tradition, and we keep wording each other on daily basis. We need to interchange our culture through the network. Feel free and do not be so comfortable within the comfort of a certain country. Trade out. There is technology today. Let's use it to trade out within African continents. Interact with one another. Exchange culture. Till we meet again, I grant the next interview when necessary, and I would want to speak more on this issue of the diaspora and African descent. I will rest not at all until we see that Africa stands together, until we see that Africa is fully emancipated. We are not emancipated at all. And until we are, the paramount will continue to exist. Even if I'm not there, there will be another paramount. And that will continue to produce liberty to Africans. But until then, I am saying to all Africans and the diasporans, according to the slogan of the State of African Diaspora, they say to strengthen Africa through the diaspora and diaspora through Africa. Let us all have that strength embodied in one. Then our dreams will be achieved. Until next time, I remain His Royal Majesty King Francis Kelechi Nwaneri III, the Paramount Chief of Africa and the founder of SWAF. And I say to you, Uhuru, Africa.